Woo!
Crazy Stupid Podcast.
Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, if this is your first time watching, we'd love it if you could hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell so that you are aware of when we post things.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Crazy Stupid Podcast.
God damn, boy. That was rough.
Just finished watching House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 4.
That one hurt, bro.
I should have known she was doomed from when she was getting on her dragon and they gave her that little moment where she was like, we're about to ride into war. Oh, okay. But anyways, there was more to the episode. This reminded me of a formula that I remember Game of Thrones doing a lot, which was you would spend like 25 minutes of an episode and it would be like really slow. Okay. Not too much happening, but it would be so slow that you would know
something's coming.
Something was about to happen in the last half. And that's how I felt. The first 20 minutes of it, it felt like a transitional episode. Mm-hmm. Like we have to transition from where we were with the characters before last week's episode to where we are now. Maybe like 15, 20 minutes in, I was like, you know what? There's too much talking going on, and I just know something big is about to happen into the episode.
Yeah. So the director was Alan Taylor, and he's done quite a few episodes. He's well known as like a Game of Thrones director / writer. I think they knew that this was going to be a pivotal episode, and we got to bring in someone that is very seasoned when it comes to stuff like this.
You're saying like he's in Game of Thrones episodes? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. All right. So let's talk about Daemon.
So I really liked what the showrunner Ryan Condal said. All of the people that Daemon is seeing is a reflection of who he contributed directly or indirectly in creating where they currently are at. And he's starting to reconcile with the decisions that he made in doing so. He feels indirectly tied to Aemond because I think something changed in Aemond in season 1, episode 8, when he sees Daemon takes out Corlys' brother.
Yeah,
something changed in Aemond's. You saw like very excitement, like
respect.
Yes, and a challenge. And I think wanting to be like Daemon, someone that's feared and revered, a little bit impulsive. I think that he gave Aemond someone to aspire to be. And at that time, Daemon was not his best self.
Okay.
He sees young Rhaenyra in the throne room, which I love that they made that detail because that's the original wound. And I'm glad that we saw Laena because one, Daemon's heart, I know he cared for Laena, but he wasn't fully there. He wasn't fully present, and she wanted to leave. Mm-hmm. She wanted to go back to Westeros, and he didn't allow it because he had not gotten over what Viserys did.
And remember, Rhaenys said
with the maesters.
Yeah, she said that their maesters could have saved her.
Who knows?
That may not be true, but that's what she said. I also think the stuff with Rhaenyra, I think it's also showing that I think that these visions are revealing stuff about himself that he didn't want to believe.
Yes.
Like I think he wants to believe that he can be loyal and obedient and just standing at Rhaenyra's side. And I feel like the conversation that they had forced him to confront the reality that may not be as true. And it kind of like shook everything loose. And now in these visions, the removing of her head from her body, like he was shocked that he did that.
Yes.
I feel like he did not want to believe that this was sitting in him, that this type of like bitterness and resentment towards her, this woman that he does actually love and care for, was that this was all sitting under the surface like that. I think the thing that remains to be seen is what does he do with it. I just feel like it could go either way. We could get a redemption arc, or this could be his undoing completely. I just don't know.
I love that the show is taking the time to unpack Daemon's mistakes.
Yeah.
And showing that he is very remorseful for a lot of the things that he did. I know that Rhaenyra makes a lot of decisions in the idea of agency and whatnot, but a lot of the decisions that she makes with like Harwin Strong and having, twins, and the decision that she makes with Kristen Cole is a direct result to how Daemon taught her about how she should see her own pleasures and desires, which I understand that there is a portion of that which was truthful. Rhaenyra should be able to find pleasure in like what she wants and whatnot. But the way that Daemon went about it distorted it in a way. Because of that, she does make some very
rash.
Yeah, some very bad decisions. And that was one of the threads that led us to where we're at. And I just don't think he didn't have the foresight to think about what I'm doing to this girl that I'm telling myself that I care about. Also, I want to point out when Daemon first wakes from his dream, he has blood on his hands. And I thought that was a pretty symbolic thing that the show chose to do with
I did
him.
not peep that.
Yeah, he did like a double take, and then he looked at his hand and he realized, oh, it's not real. He's again coming to the realization, I've done some terrible things. I actually think where his character's going may feel a little bit similar to like the Hound. There's a bit of a redemption arc with reconciling the violence that he's done. In the preview for next week, you see him helping rebuild Harrenhal with his own two hands. He's at this block and he's chopping wood manually with himself. And that in many ways is kind of like a symbolism of redemption oftentimes in storytelling, you know?
That means he's dead. If he gets a redemption arc, he's dead. They're gonna redeem him, and that's how he dies. Sorry. Let's talk about Aegon. Honestly, just completely, I feel bad. Like, I feel really bad for him. There was like a little bit of resistance to that emotion before, but I honestly just feel really bad for him. And I do remember seeing, like, I think you are the one, you sent me that tweet from critics who had watched the season before it aired. Yeah. And that's one of the things they said, that they, like, his performance, actually plays Aegon, his performance is a standout because a character that could have been like a Joffrey Lannister is actually a character that you feel a lot for. And I'm seeing that all the way through. This episode, I felt so bad for him. Yeah. Sitting in the council meeting and everybody just talking over and around him, like he's truly so obsolete. Like he is so like he has no value at all to these people and to what they're trying to do.
Even when he leaves and he's like, you all bore me, they're not like scared or nervous. Once he walks out, they just get right back to work.
No, and that's not normal. When the king leaves, the meeting is supposed to be done.
Yeah.
That's why everybody stands. The fact that they sat back down
and just kept on going.
Because number one, they know he's not going to do anything about it, which is also the thing that I think is shocking about where his character has gone, because based on how reckless he was in season 1, he was mean, he was violent. I thought he was going to be like a tyrant. Like he would be a bad king because he was so violent and so forceful and so, you know, like that's what I thought would happen. And instead it's almost the opposite. Like he just is
very fickle.
Yeah, he's very weak. Like he has no control and nobody's afraid of him, really. I don't know. I felt bad for him. And then Alicent. Dang, girl. What?
You know what's wild, bro? I was catching some Cersei vibes from Alicent in that scene. Now, granted, the dynamics are a little bit different because Cersei wouldn't ever talk to her kids like that. But Alicent, very passive aggressive. She's trying to like find like a knife and twist it. She's got the wine in her hand. She's sitting down. You know, she's making the jabs. I think this is the slow burn change in her character that people have been waiting for. I really do think that.
What I'm curious to see, though, is what will be her role in like the politics of it now, because it feels like part of why she's acting like this is obviously the fact that she's having to come to the realization that she was wrong and that Viserys, to his dying breath, did not ever validate her. And also, I think part of this is because she knows that there is nothing she could do about it. She and Aegon are in very similar positions, to be frank. Both of them are like very powerless. The people in those rooms are not listening to either of them. The people who they thought that they would have power control over, they do not. So I think I'm just kind of curious to know, like, how do they back her out of that corner?
Here's what I think, because they've taken her character in a different place than they did in the books. I'm excited about this. I think that scene that we see with Alicent and Aegon was a turning point with what her motives will be moving forward. Her motives primarily for what she had sort of been indoctrinated was, I'm going to try to get my kids to be on the throne because 1, I've been taught that that is the right thing to do. 2, I've been taught that Rhaenyra will come for my kids. And 3, as we saw at the end of season 1, this will be what Viserys wanted. We've already seen 1 and 2 sort of like, you know, sort of trickle away. Like she's gotten out of, to some extent, the indoctrination that Otto placed on her with a lot of decisions that she makes, like drinking the tea or like sleeping with Kristen Cole. I think now wanting to win this war will become a motive where she just wants to do it for herself. She wants to win this war for herself, because part of what I noticed in that conversation that she sort of rightfully so talks to Aegon like, you took me away when I was ruling, when Viserys was sick, and you sent my father away. And she's essentially, you know, when he says, well, what do you want me to do? I think they posed the script that way to show that Aegon's going to be looking to Alicent essentially for how do I rule this. And then I think as much as with Kristen Cole wanting to consistently try to find glory and triumph in these decisions that he's making to bring back his honor, I think he will continuously feel guilt at being a failure as a leader, that again, Alicent may step into that role and say, you all are doing a terrible job. You need to start listening to me.
What she learned about Viserys' last words has definitely unearthed a sort of apathy in her.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
for sure.
I like that you pointed out that she's finding those books because she wants to find this prophecy.
Yeah, she's trying to, that's my assumption, is that she is trying to prove or disprove what Rhaenyra was telling her. Mm-hmm. I also am suspicious of Larys. Why did he come check in on her like that? Like, he came in fishing for something. Because he was asking her questions like, you haven't been yourself lately. It's like he was questioning whether or not she was still really in it. This might be a stretch, but I'm wondering if his little whispers saw Alicent and Rhaenyra. And because he noticed a change in her after that, he's wondering if she's reneging a little bit. Because the conversation, it felt weird to me.
Like almost a little bit interrogating.
Like he was fishing for something. And it wasn't just the tea because...
That's a nothing burger.
Yeah,
really.
it really doesn't matter. Yeah, I don't know. The conversation was odd. And then the way that the conversation ended, it's like he got what he was looking for. When she was like, whatever Viserys' intentions, they died with him. And he was like, he agreed with her. And I feel like that's what he needed to hear, that she did not care about that. The only thing to me that would make him want to ask her those questions is if he knew
something went down,
something happened.
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta talk about Rhaenyra's council. Lord.
Oh my God. I really hope people pay attention to the social and power dynamics that are happening in this scene, because this is what I hear often how women in the workplace experience things. I think we need to pay close attention to how the council is speaking to people like Baela, to people like Rhaenys, to people like Rhaenyra, in comparison
to Corlys,
to when Corlys walked in that room.
Because here's the thing. I understand if you want to say Rhaenys, you're not really in charge here. That's true. She's technically not. So they're we answer to Rhaenyra, but they don't though. They don't listen to her either.
Exactly.
But that's what they said. They said, you're not in charge. Rhaenyra is, or Jace, who they kind of listen to, but I think mostly because he was agreeing with them. But then Corlys walks in. Corlys and Rhaenys are on the exact same authority level. There's no reason for you to be listening to him and not to her.
And it's the little comments that I think are important that feel very microaggressive-y. When Baela's giving her thoughts on what she observed with Kristen Cole, they throw it back at her as in this girl, this woman, this female doesn't know what she's talking about. That's the vibes that they're picking up on. And the reality is what Jace and Rhaenys say is true. We would have no idea what Kristen Cole is doing, even if we don't have all the details. We wouldn't have a single clue that he was even there if Baela wasn't there to report it.
I was so confused at their response to her. Y'all need something.
And this is where I'm glad Corlys pointed this out, because it's I don't think you guys really care who's really sitting on the throne for some of these people. I think y'all are losing this as a power grab.
Yeah.
I'm glad Corlys just checked him for a second.
I also think though, when Jace was giving Rhaenyra attitude when she came back, I was like, ooh, Rhaenyra, she's gonna have to earn back their trust, okay? Because Jace was riding for her, okay? That's his mom. He wasn't doing any of that. I feel like she does need to come to terms with the fact that the way that she did that mission secretly, which, listen, I understand why, and I'm off board. I'm glad she did it. And there's lots of people on the internet who are mad. I don't understand why. I loved it. I thought it was a wonderful move. The way that you did it secretly, it felt like abandonment. That's what it felt like. Everybody else is just sitting around waiting for you. Nobody's in charge. They're confused. They don't know where you are. They don't know why you went. She kind of has to weigh the cost of what she did. It was important because it's what you needed to be sure that you were doing the right thing. And I'm glad that you did it. And also I don't know, the fact that Jace is upset should tell you something. So I think she's going to have to work now to earn back their trust. And I don't know how they're going to react to what happened with Rhaenys.
Well, this is, again, what I will say, the difference in parentage that Rhaenyra has in comparison to Alicent. Both Jacaerys and Aegon, they want revenge. What happened with Aegon and his child, and then obviously with Jace and Luke. Alicent doesn't find a way to tamper that rage into something that's constructive, that is something that starts the process of healing to a certain degree. But Rhaenyra takes Jace aside and explains to him that prophecy. And I think that was a learning moment for Jace to not be as impulsive. You cannot turn to someone like Aegon. You can't turn to someone like Daemon because this is bigger than us. And I think that has sort of been a reoccurring thing that we've seen from a lot of the men, seeing this idea of war bringing your sense of glory. And a lot of the men like Daemon, like Aemond, like Aegon, like Kristen Cole, placing their entire identity in that kind of violence. And you see Rhaenyra trying to use this moment with Jacaerys of like, listen, this is bigger than us. You can't just be as impulsive because you feel like you want to prove yourself as a king. I appreciated that moment because I feel like that could have gone south very easily. And I think she regained his trust in that moment, personally, I think.
I agree. I think she's going to have to work harder than everybody else is.
Yes.
Yeah. The other thing I want to point out with Rhaenyra, I do think it's very interesting how Kristen Cole is operating and getting these allies. They are going around like fear mongering, right? Like they are getting allies through threats and violence. Like they're essentially just going around burning places down and whatever and being like, either you come with us
or it's over.
Or it's done. Rhaenyra, we haven't seen do that yet. Now, to be fair, it does seem like she needs more people. So maybe she needs to change her tactics. From what we've seen of Team Black so far, the people that are Team Black because they're loyal to her.
Yeah.
They're all like, we hate the high towers, so we're with you. Or they're like, no, we swore an oath to you. We're loyal to you. I feel like that shows just another difference in how they're operating. Now, whether that will work for her,
TBD.
To be seen, because as was pointed out in this episode, they don't have a mainland army. That seems very bad to me.
Well, you can even point this back to the last 2 episodes of season 1. The way that Aegon was crowned, they were all forced into that building, into that dome. Aegon was forced to be king against his will, as opposed to the Kingsguard. So Eric, he brings the crown to Rhaenyra, and everyone around her kneels willingly. And that's a very big difference with the way that you're seeing how things are navigating. One is just very natural, which, I mean, we saw the White Hart come to Rhaenyra earlier in season 1. I think it's becoming a little bit more clear of like, this is who the gods chose. This is who the gods chose. Also, we got to talk about Aemond. Oh my gosh.
For Aemond, it seemed like a rash decision.
I think he was still hurt from the brothel moment.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think that was a strategy move because that doesn't actually feel smart to me.
Well, I think it was also, I mean, he calls Aegon an idiot when he sees the dragon. I think this was like, you're getting in the way of my plan. Like this is supposed to be a moment
he was definitely frustrated.
And also, he pulled his sword out. Kristen had to call him back. At that point, Rash goes out the window. Several moments have passed. You got off your dragon. You landed Vhagar. You got off your dragon. You found your brother. And then you pulled out your sword.
Just yikes.
Yeah, that was a very irredeemable moment for me with Aemond. You trying to go 2 for 2, bro, with Kinslaying my guy?
I do want to say major props to the VFX team, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that looked good to me. That looked very good. I was really curious to see, like, what is the dragon fighting going to look like? Well, now I know.
That was some Jurassic Park stuff right there, bro.
Yeah, that was really crazy,
Holy
like edge of my
smokes.
seat type.
And the music too, Ramin Djawadi again. My God.
I'm really sad.
That
though.
one hurt, bro.
I'm really sad. Like, no shade to Jaehaerys and Lucerys. No shade to the babies. But this is the saddest I've been yet. I just didn't think that she would be gone so soon. I'm really sad.
There's a few moments that made it very sad. The way she quietly looks at Meleys and says attack.
She knew.
And then when Vhagar gets a hold of Meleys looks directly at Rhaenys before, passes away. And Rhaenys knew too. That's not Rhaenys. She wasn't going to run. She wasn't going to flee.
No, you're right.
That's not in her DNA.
But I was begging her to go home, please. As soon as Aegon started getting on his dragon, I was like, this is going to be bad for Rhaenys because they're sending her in thinking that the other side is not sending dragons in.
Yeah.
Why they're thinking that, I don't know. Again, use your brains, Team Black. Let's be for real. Anyways.
So this is what it says in the book that I thought was just very sad. So 9 days after Lord Staunton, that's the one where the soldier tried to call him in after he sees Vhagar, and then he kind of pushes him away. Dispatched his plea for help. The sound of Lethen wings was heard across the sea, and the dragon Meleys appeared from Rook's Rest. The Red Queen, she was called for the scariest scales that covered her. The membranes of her wings were pink, her crest, horns, and claws bright as copper. And on her back in steel and copper armor that flashed in the sun rode Rhaenys Targaryen, the queen who never was. Princess Rhaenys made no attempt to flee. With a glad cry and a crack on her whip, she turned Meleys toward the foe. Very, 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 very sad. Loyal to the end, too, bro.
Now, to her credit, Aegon doesn't go down without Rhaenys. Okay,
yeah.
Sure, Aemond blew the fire.
She did some damage, though.
But she messed him up.
Badly, bro.
He was so... Now, Aegon, friend, again, where's your brain at? You've never fought.
I also think he was a little drunk, too. When Aemond shows up, thank the gods.
I'm really sad to see her go. I like how they let her go out, but I'm just really sad.
Now, listen, I want to put the disclaimer that I'm Team Black. I'm rooting for Rhaenyra to win here. I do think it would be a very reasonable decision, and it would be well within their desires if Corlys and House Velaryon were to switch sides. And hear me out why I say that. We take this all the way back to season 1. Viserys and Otto don't take Corlys seriously about the crab feeder. He loses ships, he loses men, he's losing money. Viserys does a slap in the face with the Laena proposal, which, as weird as it is, it's very weird, very, very, very weird. But if Viserys chooses Laena over Alicent, this war never happens.
It's true.
Never happens. Then we have a situation with Laenor, where at one point thought Rhaenyra was involved. They may no longer believe that, but they still do think that Daemon played a role. I think that for certain. You have Laena, who the parents knew wanted to leave Essos and head back to Westeros. And whether we know or not that the Maesters would have done a better job, we don't know. But they believe, at least Rhaenys believe that. You have all of that happening. Corlys creates a blockade with his naval ships. Rhaenys is using her dragons to circle around. All of that is happening. They agreed to the marriage with the twins. That's a lot. I understand why Rhaenyra did not send Jacaerys. But so far in the story, you have been asking the Velaryons to be loyal. You're not giving them much in response.
Yeah, I also think it was pretty clear that Corlys was only going along with this Team Black thing because Rhaenys asked him to.
Exactly.
When he woke up, he was like, "Why are we here?" He said, "He was like,
girl destroys everything she touches.
Everything she touches." He was like, "Let's get on up out of here." Mm-hmm. And Rhaenys was the one who convinced him, like, "No, she's trying. Yeah. She's trying. We need to stand beside her." Rhaenys is gone. I don't know. I don't see any reason for him to stay. I don't think he's staying. And if he goes, I actually think it's done. I think that's game over.
If you were to look at it from their perspective, or at least from Corlys's perspective, it feels like he's being taken advantage of.
Or it's just costing him too much.
Yeah, like he's almost being taken for granted. And so far, there hasn't been that much to show for it. What they've gotten back in return is like slim to none. I don't think I would be able to fault Corlys if you were to be like, I'm out of here.
I don't know what's going to change for them. I feel like in order for the series to continue on, like for the next few seasons, and for there to still be kind of like this back and forth, something has to shift on Team Black, because I just like they're at such a huge disadvantage. First of all, they've lost a dragon now. Daemon is, I don't know. We don't know. We're confused. We're unsure. So as of right now, they got Jacaerys, who love him, do not think he could handle himself. Personally, maybe he can. Maybe I'm wrong.
What that little chicken gonna do against Vhagar?
I don't think Jacaerys could handle himself on a battlefield like that. So they got him. They got Baelo, who I don't really know. I have no idea about her skill set. And they have Rhaenyra, who they are not willing to send out. They don't have an army on the mainland. I'm like, something has to change.
Also, Corlys, you hurting the black men don't cheat allegations, bro.
Okay, yes. Yeah, so I honestly forgot to talk about that, but that's what that was, right?
It's not a good look for you. Again, more props to Rhaenys.
That means they can ride dragons, right?
And shout out to Rhaenys that was like, I know who they are and you should be treating them a lot better. That's a lot of grace that she's given to you, bro. Because she could have pulled a Catelyn start, you know? This was a banger episode, at least from our perspective. We'd love to hear what you all think about this episode. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comment section. And with that, we will see you all next week. Peace out, everyone.